Hello, everybody, and welcome back to part 2 with Nathan, aka Crazy Hermit DM. We're really excited to bring you this half. I think it builds. We get into some really nitty gritty stuff. It's such an honor to have Nathan on. Can you please like, share, and subscribe to our channel to help us grow? We're really excited to keep bringing you content, and we want to keep getting on excellent people to interview to bring you more understanding of how the game works and more of the game as a whole. Thank you very much for watching. See you soon. Running, really.
I've challenged myself as a dungeon master, and once you get to a certain level, to anyone that's listening to this, once you get to that certain level, like take notes and all that, and whatever your comfort level is, but when you get to a certain level of expertise, challenge yourself and go into one session, just one, no notes. No prep whatsoever.
I love a black sheep episode.
You say that's a challenge. I do that because I'm lazy.
Yeah.
There's different DMs out there.
Yeah.
I do it because I've been too lazy and I have to.
Yeah. I completely agree though. The blank sheet can be really, it's really exciting because it's so freeform. There's nothing formed in your mind about what's going to happen. It's just, let's see how this goes. And I think you're right. It improves your improv skills as a DM. You're reacting to what your players are wanting to do, their agency. You're making decisions. Yeah.
And you could watch 100 different advice videos, or I could talk to them blue in the face about how to be a better GM. But overall, the number one skill, if you want to be a good game master for any tabletop system, especially role-playing, is improvisation.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And on with that, actually, like, when you have an ending in mind, maybe the final boss fight, which usually what it comes down to is there's a final boss and you kill the final boss, and that's the big thing. How much of that have you pre-planned, and how much is freeform reactive, like you say?
So this one coming up in hopefully 2 months. Not 6.
Yeah. Two asterisk. Yeah.
2 asterisk.
Yeah.
I have planned it 5 different ways in my mind, and it changes and molds, and it's still relatively the same ending. It's just a different set dressing or a different location of what it's planned to be.
Nice.
And that, it's minor things as well. Some dungeon masters, especially I feel newer ones, that if it doesn't go the way they want, they think that they're failing, and it's not by any means. It's just not what you planned.
Yeah.
So I, like with my big BBG, and I can pull the mini off the shelf that I've been painting. That
please do.
God, get it out!
Come on, dude.
Come on.
Show us the mini. Show us the mini.
Show us the mini.
So for anyone that's seen the Overseer, at least in 3rd edition, it's this big inky black tree. And for a year, I went around to trying to kind of levy my following on Instagram. Like, went to 3D printers and I'm like, can you mold this or sculpt this? I go, just sculpt it. I'll buy a printer myself and print it off. No one would do it.
Oh no!
I didn't want to get a bunch of pipe cleaners and get clay and all that because it's this big inky tree and all that. But so I found One-Off Minis Monthly. Shout out to them.
Cool.
That was this big kind of beholder mind flare, and this thing is.
Oh, that's so good.
He looks sick.
This is about 3/4 the way painted through, and then using kind of brass because I was doing research, and basically old Sumerian and Babylonian times, brass was a sign of power.
Wow.
And mental fortitude.
That's so
sick.
Good.
Okay, that is sick.
Yeah, I love the your knowledge of mythology and stuff. It's really cool that you obviously you've done lots of research into that, and then you pull it into your character, your BBG stuff. That's really awesome. Yeah. It's really cool to hear like that.
Oh yeah, well, since the 90s when Greek mythology and there's like Hercules and Xenon, I've been a mythology and folklore fan.
Amazing. Nice. Yeah. That's good.
Nice.
Gosh.
But that ending has definitely changed 4 to 5 times, and that wasn't even the original villain concept until I found that, and I'm like,
Okay.
oh, I go. In my mind, how much would that build up a character that the BBG kind of has to anime villain themselves to evolve into a different form because you've actually scared the older one enough to evolve to because they know you're coming.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, that's
I just
cool.
love the idea of the anime form. It's something we talk about quite a lot as well. Sometimes you just got to go anime with it, and you got to go beyond. That's so cool. I love the way that the thought path of it as well. Like it's going to literally evolve because it's like knows that this big showdown's coming, that these heroes of legend are coming towards its lair, and it's got to like adapt itself to fight. That's so cool.
And I think what comes with that, which I think is really cool, and I'd really recommend to people that are going to run like a BBEG, is when you add those aspects, like he can evolve. You can have we use phases quite a lot. It's like the World of Warcraft phases for bosses. You get this much through the hit points, and then something changes. Is you could have him evolve mid combat. He can just blow up, grow new arms, those sorts of things. Like you can evolve it in the episode. So giving yourself that theme of the boss, you can just go in random directions, which I think is really exciting stuff.
They do that in the Mythic Odysseys of Theros book, and
Yes.
Rime of the Frost Maiden, and kind of show players how to, instead of legendary actions, it's in quotations mythic.
Mythic, I've seen
Of,
this.
when it goes down to 0 and then, oh, it's back up.
You thought it was dead, but round 2.
Yeah. And now it looks completely different.
Yeah. I mess around with those all the time in our campaigns. I had one where it was like giant, like I get a lot of inspiration from like Elden Ring and Dark Souls because I just love the art style and I love it. And then we had one that was a god with a mortal god, so it descended itself from heaven, but doing that lost its name, so it became like the one that rages, and it finally apotheosised itself into wrath and gained its name back and became this like giant ironclad lava big sword guy. And then halfway through, it was like 3/4 of the way through, its like chest blows out, and then it gets a very like Malekith with the black blade. If anyone's played Elden Ring, that kind of like werewolf with the sword, fast. So it went from like big, heavy to fast, sleek, and quick. And then the last phase, I like meld them together, so I like jumped into it, and they became like amalgamated, and I had like speed and strength. I just love because I find in D&D sometimes, especially if you're running massive combats, players, it's quite slow. D&D, I think combat sometimes can lend itself to just turn taking and being a bit like blocky. So I think those type of like mythic actions, like it says in Ferox, or doing phases or some type of layer change can really help. Okay, the players have to wake up again because we can't use the same tactics now. We have to change tactics because the fight has completely shifted in direction. I think that's a good tool to keep them engaged, not asleep at the table, basically.
For sure, I have to agree with almost 100% of that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, 100%.
It's good to know you're on board.
Yeah. It's, I really like as well. I've used so my BBEG. I've only finished one campaign. I had one, like you said, that floundered at the end. It was like we were close to the end, and it just kind of went a bit awry. And then we was like, okay, we'll leave that. I'll write an ending for it, so we all know how it ends, and then we'll start a new one in slightly the same universe, but also a genuinely different universe because it was a whole sci-fi thing. But the BBEG for the second campaign that I got to finish, one thing I did was there were all of these sort of under bosses. There were these sort of under bosses and under gods, and eventually the BBEG, my BBEG changed midway through the campaign. Because I did the classic, my BBEG is going to have a resurrection that is like never going to be stopped. And then the party actually just did stop it through really, really cool, awesome things. And I was like, wow, well, I'm not going to just retcon that. Like, I'm not just going to say they didn't achieve that. I'm going to say, wow, you stopped the BBG. That's crazy. And then I thought to myself, well, there's a power vacuum now because there was going to be this big enemy to take over the universe and there isn't. but there are still very powerful players who would like a seat at the table. So it ended up being this god that they'd allied with before, who ended up taking this crown and becoming the king of the gods and becoming this kind of bad Zeus sort of style guy. But one of the items he had was the head of the god of magic, who'd betrayed the party, had run away. He'd killed her and then taken her head, and then he used her head like a big, like Medusa sort of lantern, which was really fun because I got to pull out and then confirm to the party that she was dead. So everyone was like, "Oh, she's dead! She got what's coming to her!" But then I started blasting them with it, and it was a big line laser. So they had to think, okay, we actually can't align ourselves in a straight line. That's actually a bad idea. So we've got to start spacing out. So it meant the actual strategy on the board changed through that moment, and I really recommend people to use things like that to like switch things up, like you say, Connor, make people change their approach to a boss fight, and it really spices things up. Really good.
I just recently, this campaign, and it actually was an episode of the podcast, was the title of it, for anyone that wants to check it out. It's like the newest player took out my scariest antagonist. And it was one of those 3 people that were supposed to meet at that 3/4 point of the way through the campaign. And I brought him in earlier. They found like an item, and he was supposed to just come in, beat the crap out of him, take the item, and then just kind of ratchet it up. They stood there and fought him. And 3/4 the way, and he had a Vorpal sword. Comes in,
God.
beats one person down. Then they had an Archmage NPC that had joined them. He comes in, whacks them with a 20. So I go, whack, whack, takes one person down to 0, 20s the Archmage and beheads them. And then just stands there and looks at him. And he's this big blue dragonborn. And they end up fighting him.
Oh no.
And if there's one way to ratchet...
Why would you just see him behead an Archmage and go, all right, let's do it.
3/4 the way through the fight, our celestial warlock, who's now becoming a goddess part of the campaign, she's looking at her spells, and because people are dropping.
You would imagine.
And she's looking at the demiplane spell, which is basically kind of a broken way during a long rest to exit yourself from the setting. That way the DM can't throw any sort of wandering monsters at you.
Yes.
And you get a definite good night's sleep. She goes, this says that this opens kind of a 5 by 10 foot door. And I'm like, yeah. She goes, it doesn't say it has to be on a vertical surface, right? I'm like, no, why? She goes, I open it up beneath him. It's an action.
Oh my god.
And I'm like, I like paused. I look at the spell and I'm like, no, it doesn't say anything about vertical surfaces or what type of surface you have to put it on. I go, all right, I'm going to roll a check to see if he falls through the door. And he fails. And then they close the door, and now he's stuck in it. He's basically imprisoned in a demiplane.
Oh,
and I'm just like,
oh gosh.
That's so
amazing.
Cool. That's
Instantly,
so cool.
I'm like, what's the bad guy from Kung Fu Panda? What's
Tai Lung.
Tai Lung. You know, like when he's trapped.
Kai.
And he's trapped,
about,
and he's like building up power. Instantly, I'm like, okay, now that BBAG is like locked in like a prison, and I could just see like doing like prison push-ups until eventually he comes back in another campaign.
Oh yeah, it's already a joke. It's a joke among some of our players that have played in a previous campaign because it's off a former player's character.
Oh,
he was supposed to be ramped up with a couple artifacts and just be this big bad over person that you don't want to screw with.
Yeah.
And I introduced him, and they're like, does he still have that jar of alchemy? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, so he's sitting in there with a jar of alchemy making mayonnaise and wine and water, and that's all he has to eat, isn't it? And he's like, yep.
Oh no, just
mayonnaise and wine.
Oh my gosh,
that's
so
crazy. So cool.
I have another like kind of idea to talk about, which is because we've talked about like how we would end it with like BBGs, but like how do you guys approach making satisfying endings for each player? Like how do you wrap up like a player's story. Because like as DMs, that's kind of our goal, right? We want to give each person on the table the most satisfying ending, because they're going to say goodbye to a character they've probably been playing for like 3 years, 2 years, whatever. So what are your first thoughts when like approaching that? How do you do that?
For me, just because I've played multiple editions, and despite fourth edition for all its flaws, one of the things I really liked about that was the Paragon Pass and the Epic Destinies. In that, if you guys have ever seen that edition,
No, I haven't.
basically it's you went up to level 30 in fourth edition as opposed to 20.
Cool.
So 1 to 10, you had a heroic path, which is just basically a backstory ish with a couple extra powers. You had a Paragon Path from 11 to 20, which is a new kind of background story with a couple other things. And you had an Epic Destiny from 21 to 30,
Right.
which just kind of set you up for the finale of how your character should end. I recommend for anyone kind of going through those and then just changing them. I have a paladin who's a paladin of, well, halfway through the thing, he made a deal with Surtur, the fire giant god of Muspelheim. So he's now the Sword of Onslaught of Surtur.
Sick.
Or we have a druid that's literally going to go metaphysically join the Yggdrasil at the end of the campaign.
Yeah.
Or we have a wild mage sorcerer that I had stolen from Space Jammer. There's this. It's kind of like Babylon 5, like an ancient race that kind of builds dimensions and then they just go off. He's found out that he's like a fledgling one. And that's why most like wild mages in our setting don't get to a certain level. It's because they usually end up blowing themselves up through wild surges or killing themselves. And you just do things like that, I think, and just kind of, in a sense, as the name, make it epic. That way it's satisfying at level 20 of, like, you guys are on levels with demigods and gods.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I agree. I went through this a different way, where I was paralyzed by fear of not making it satisfying, that I knew we were ending and messaged all my players individually. And I said, right, the campaign is going to end a certain way, but I want to give you an opportunity to have a closing moment, maybe a conversation with an NPC, maybe there's a little thing you want to reveal, maybe what is it you'd like to do? And then I blended what they wanted to do into the end of the campaign, and it ended up feeling really nice because it gave me none of the self-doubt at the end of going, were they satisfied? Because I knew that you guys had what you wanted at the end, and then I jazzed it up and I added some cool little bits and some nice little moments of RP, and like, yeah, you can put the kind of bells and whistles on it, but at the core I wanted to deliver what you guys wanted, so I just directly asked Connor, how do you approach that? Because you've done a few.
It was interesting because I like what Nathan was saying about like giving them like almost like inbuilding into their story a kind of end point. Is that what you're saying, Nathan? Basically, like,
Yeah.
they like
kind of a destiny.
Yeah, like a destiny. Yeah.
What I do also is I just don't hand them this and just like, this is what's happening. I'll usually ask them, like, where do you want to take your character? And they'll,
Cool.
over the course of a month, or you want to do this a little bit early, that way you're just not plopping on them.
Yeah.
You want to, they'll give you usually 2 or 3 inkling ideas of kind of, well, I kind of want to go this way, but maybe this way. And then you usually take those ideas, and then I recommend as a dungeon master, just like, and this is the thing I always do, is I like your idea, but I'm going to twist it now to this. That way it's still unexpected.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what I did. Unfortunately I have a tendency to not have happy endings in my campaigns. I don't know why. I've
had that happen.
Yeah. I'm normally are you disagreeing, Sam? Are you like you've had some happy endings? Haven't all of your characters died at the end of my campaigns? You're thinking about
they
it.
sort of have. They sort of have, but they also sort of. It's also been.
Yeah.
Like one of them, we died and we ascended to godhood and became the new pantheon. So I felt pretty cool at the end of that.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
I think that's it. I think for the second campaign, I was really clear that I wanted them to like be the new Pantheon. All the old Pantheon had died, and we were gonna replace the new one. And that was pretty clear from the get-go. I was able to, because we had played in the campaign before in the same world, I was able to set them up with each a kind of epic thing from the last campaign, which was quite cool. Like there was an archmage who's like the king of the archmages, and they have the thing called the flame, which is like a magical gift that makes a wizard a better wizard than anyone else.
Kind of like a white wizard scenario.
Like a white wizard scenario. Yeah. And I was able to give that to Sam's character that was a wizard in this campaign, and I was able to... The archangel from the last campaign was able to knight the angel that became the arc. He was playing an Asimir, and he was able to become an angel. So I had, from last campaign, I was able to, like, because everyone knew the epicness of the campaign before, I was able to give them an epic moment by almost transferring the mantles from last campaign's awesome NPCs onto the mantles of these new characters, which worked quite well.
It was good.
And
it was very good.
Third campaign was quite dark, and it was like almost world ending.
Really was.
And it kind of was like because I knew it was going to be the last episode inside the world. It was going very Tolkien-y, which is like the magic was going to fade. So I brought them all up to a kind of crescendo, and I knew eventually that the magic would go. So I kind of got them to write themselves a kind of ending-esque to their character that was almost a bit mundane, which was quite interesting. Like, some of them went off and like fought in battles and became like knights, but magic had gone, so they were once a sorcerer, but now they're just like a normal sellsword. One person went off and had a family and just lived in the barn, even though he was like the greatest warrior of the age. So that was like a really interesting end, and I don't know if it was the correct way to end that campaign, but it was an interesting way to do it, I think.
I think it was. I think what it definitely was the correct end to end the setting. Is it you tied the bow? We weren't going to go back. There was no fourth campaign because magic had died, and it was like it did complete the story. And also, my character didn't wait until magic died. My character did a Master Oogway peace out turn into like Cherry Blossom at peak power level. So everyone else died weak and powerless, whereas I went out full on god tier, which was pretty satisfying. And then everyone was telling their thing, and I was just like, "That's cool. I'll listen to your guys once, but I know I smashed it. I just Oogwayed it as I'm becoming my love, and then just Oogwayed into like it's a blossom. It was good. It was good.
So like the dungeon master and me, like borrowing things from past campaigns, like you mentioned, like Brett and my other player who's playing the druid, they are actually from the first campaign of this setting, and then Chase or Kilk, he's from the second, as well as his partner Vicky. They came and joined this third one. So but Brent wasn't in the second, and then you had Chase that wasn't in the first, so I'm able to throw in pepper and references from each of the two campaigns that the other person might not get, but the one does.
Yes.
Oh, that's so good. That's a nice setup. And I like that.
The other thing I'd say, if you ever did play in that setting, and this is just the storyteller in me, what happens if magic came back?
Yes, true. That's so true. What would happen?
And why? What?
Yeah.
Magic died for, let's say, the last 100 years. And all of a sudden it's come back. Like, it happened in Game of Thrones, even.
It's true.
The Red Comet happens, dragons were reborn, the White Walkers woke up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh.
What caused that? And there's your buy-in hook for everybody that have played in that previous campaign.
I love speaking to other DMs where it's like, because one person will say something and then the other DM goes, "That's amazing. What about this?" Like, it's so obvious when you're playing with other people that play. I really love that. Yeah, just really that, cool. Like, I want to build on that. Let's build on that idea. Yeah, nice. Awesome. Yeah, go on.
Now,
go on, Nathan. Go on.
Oh, I was just saying, just like going into that finale, because like that's kind of the overarching topic here, is like making those personal stakes or making that final battle a little bit more of a buy-in because of personal stakes. That's how I feel you really draw in somebody. Or like right now, personally, like I'm trying to keep the pacing a little bit more tighter as opposed to like letting them kind of go off on tangents just because we're in that final segment.
Yeah. You want to be turning up the heat, turning up the tension, and like pacing's a really good way to do that. Like, come on, like there's no shopping trip now. We're in the demiplane about to fight the overseer. Like, turn it up, crunching more combat, more tight. Get a little bit of desperation on them, put them at the kind of the edge, and then throw them.
There's no chance that you guys are going to be able to long rest in this.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. That's it. What you've got now is what you've got to the end. So you better start like pacing out your resources a little bit. And, like,
nice. That is cool. That is cool. Now, I think the one of the things I wanted to kind of ask with this, and I think this is sometimes the thing that people, I don't see DMs talk about this all the time, is like, have you been dissatisfied with anything? Is there anything that you've in an ending, or maybe just a section in the story that's happened that you've gone, oh, I could have done that a different way? Has that ever happened to you guys?
I don't think I've ever met a DM where that don't happen.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was like every episode. Am I gonna say
that? I am. Oh, I'm sure everybody feels this. I am my own worst critic.
Yes.
I'm probably the person that's going to be the hardest on me is me. Where I think, oh, I could have probably done this better. I could have done this better. I still do that almost a decade and a half into this game. And then sometimes you just have to talk to your players and like ask, what do you think about this, that. I don't recommend doing like every session, like asking them for a feedback survey by any means, because then they're going to get annoyed and not want to play.
Yeah.
But every so often, sometimes a dungeon master almost needs like a mid-session or a mid-campaign session 0, just kind of like, okay, everything's still going good.
Yeah.
Everyone's having fun, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
if they keep, if they keep coming back, that's usually the biggest indicator.
100%.
Yes. Yeah. That is true, actually. I think when we've been talking about improving today, like improving is off the seat of your pants. You're making decisions so fast, like in the split moment, you're going to get stuff wrong. You just are. Like, one's perfect. No one can make those decisions that fast in that reactionary way and things be right. It's just not getting into a spiral of getting in your head, basically. Because there's been episodes where I floundered an episode because something bad's happened or like hasn't happened well, and then I've got in my own head and I just like,
it's hard, isn't it? You've got to get yourself out. I've had that exact same thing where you thought a thing was going to go a certain way, it's gone a completely different way, in a way that you feel that's actually worse. And then I start to go, it's not about me being in control, because it's DM is not about being in control, but like the shepherd argument is really true. I feel like I've lost the shepherd's crook, the sheepdogs all over the hill. Like I don't know what's going on. This flock's wild.
This train's really gone off the rails here.
Exactly.
I gotta loop us back here before the end of the session.
Yeah.
And for anyone listening, you will always, especially in a long form campaign, at least have a half a dozen of those throughout a campaign where this campaign's really gone off the rails, or sometimes you are just not going to have those nights where the players are particularly paying attention and it's very side tangent-y and personal talking. Sometimes you just wrap it up early. Either that or me, I usually kind of, okay, it's been about 5-10 minutes. So, all right, everybody, so what do you want to do? And you just keep shepherding them.
Yeah.
Come on,
absolutely.
Come back.
And I think being in touch with that with the players can tell a lot. And like you say, you're your own worst critic, but if the players are playing, if they're enjoying themselves, and a lot often I find something I think went bad, the players are like, no, that was really cool the way you did that. I actually really liked that. And you can get in your head so much. You can get in your head, oh, it was terrible. Oh, I didn't like that. Why did I do that? And a lot of times the players are like, damn, that was cool. They just don't say it necessarily out loud,
Sometimes you can fish even like a better campaign finale ending by using NPCs. Like if you have a long-term NPC traveling with the group, like have them go up to the character and say, hey, what do you think about that?
Yes.
And you'll get the in-character thoughts, and then you're just like, well, that's not what was happening, but I like your idea better, so let's go that way.
Yeah,
That's a really good idea, actually.
yeah. The NPC litmus test. It's a tried and tested one. I like it.
One of the funnest times that I've had with an NPC is our paladin had an item on them that was cursed that forced them to speak the truth no matter what.
Oh dear.
They could not lie. So we have a little gnome tinker that travels with the party that does this very proper accent, and he's sitting there. He's like, "So you have to speak the truth, right?" And he's like, "From what I understand, yes." And then he's like, "Do you really like me?" And then starts just like peppering him with 20 questions, and he has to answer because he's compelled magically. And the player's just like looking at me, just like, I hate you so much.
Why are you doing this to me?
Brilliant.
I love
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
So but you can also get like little morsels off those moments because like, oh, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And they have to answer because they're, in quotations, magically compelled.
Yeah.
Remember, you're magically compelled, right? Don't you lie to me.
Brilliant. Now, this has been such a great conversation. I've really enjoyed this. I also want to keep this episode to a sensible length. So what I'm going to ask you two gentlemen for is a sort of maybe a top tip for finishing an episode, maybe just a little condensed piece of wisdom. A little condensed piece, one little thing that you think would really help people. Anyone
for a session or a campaign?
Let's go campaign. Yeah.
Okay. My biggest piece of advice is don't be set on an individual ending because it's not going. Nothing that you ever do is going to ever be set in stone. Nothing. Nice. Allow kind of multiple endings in your head. Don't try and plan it too far out in detail as well, because no matter what you plan, it's still not going to be what you planned. And sometimes you might have a player that has a sad ending while the other ones have a happy one. For instance, I played a dark elf that was in search of his son. And at the end of the campaign, the dungeon master says, you still don't find him.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That is good. That's good.
But Nathan was taking like a really dramatic pause, but he might have frozen.
I think he's frozen.
Internet connection.
You're back.
I thought that was like a super dramatic pause. I was like, whoa.
Really, I was like, whoa, that's you got me. You helped me there.
Yeah, totally. I was held.
Brilliant.
He didn't find a son, and like my character, that was his story. They quantum linked me where Sam never makes it back home. I continue looking for my son.
I think,
and I was mad about it at first, but over time, it's like that was actually a really good ending, and that's sometimes like the best endings where you're like, you come to it after the end, it's like, no, that was a good ending.
Yeah.
Sometimes the best books you read are the ones that have the open endings, and they have that like the story continues, but we leave it here.
Yeah.
Which is mine would be, I'm going to build on Nathan's because that was excellent. Mine would be make those notes beforehand which are about the players. Just remind yourself of each player's goal, and each player's kind of how they would take it. Like, because the sad and happy ending thing's a really good one. I did a sad ending for your character, Sam, but I knew that you were really like set up for that. And also, you're a great player. I might have not done that for my new player because my new player might not have been able to take it in a good way. But I know as a veteran, you'd be like, oh, okay, like Nathan did, probably come to the realization that was a really cool story move.
Yeah.
So I would say note down for each player just a little something, a little like, what am I fulfilling? What do I just need to fulfill? And you don't need to say how, but just have it in your mind that you've got to hit those things for each one of your characters to make sure they're going to right.
I'll interject right there with talk with your player. If you are going to do a non-conventional ending without revealing what you have planned, it's like, you one-on-one with them and ask, are you okay if your character's ending might not go what you think it will?
Yeah. Yeah.
And most, like you said, most of the time the experienced players are a little bit more apt to it than maybe a newer player. Newer players seem to be in stereotyping want a more satisfying ending.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point. That is a good point. My one is about boss fights. I'd say plan the boss, don't plan the boss fight. I think like I love to go in with a sheet that is a cool boss, and there's loads of stuff on the boss's sheet. But actually, like you said, with the evolution thing, if you've got a boss that you know can change midway, and there's stuff happening in the fight, react. Like react, do something cool, change it up, scrap that bit on the sheet, try something new, and let the fight evolve naturally, because the players will experiment with the map. That you can have changing dimensions. There's loads of stuff you can do. So plan the boss, have their core aspects in mind, but be open to changing pieces, blending ideas together, and that is kind of the most satisfying, awesome bits you can have, really.
I've been playing this campaign for 3 years. I didn't stat out this overseer figure till about 2 months ago.
Wow.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, sensible, because you know by that point where the players are at, don't you? Much more than at the beginning. You don't know where they're going to get to. I can never approximate the level of item I'm going to end up giving out. The ridiculously broken item I'm going to accidentally give out.
Oopsie!
Oh no!
How did that get there?
Yeah. That's awesome.
Amazing.
That's absolutely brilliant. Awesome episode, Nathan. Thank you so much for coming along. We really, really enjoyed having you. I know we've mentioned as well potentially doing a collab on your show, which we're very excited for that as well.
Where can people find you if they're watching? They want to have more of your content than anything. Where can they find you?
They can find me primarily on Instagram. They can find the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, basically everything but Apple. And that isn't just a stance against Apple. It was because they said, for some reason, they said my email already had an account with their thing, and I cannot.
Identity theft.
I've tried to contact support multiple times, and they never respond. So, sorry, we're not on Apple because of. I'll blame Apple support.
Blame Apple support, 100%. Okay, brilliant. That's awesome.
I've had so much fun.
Yeah,
It's been actually
me too.
Great.
Yes,
me too.
It's been really
super
fun.
good.
It's really good to meet you because obviously Sam's been speaking to you loads online, so we haven't spoken. So it's great to meet you. You have so many good insights. It's really nice to hear like such a veteran of the game chat to us about it. It's really good.
Awesome.
Well, thank you.
Incredible stuff. Thank you so much. And I think that's where we're gonna.
Bye.